Avery, I'm not sure visiting Italy is a good idea this time of year.
Mother, good evening.
Jonathan! Is it you? Where have you been, my prodigal son?
I'm right here, Mother. I'm finally home.
Yes, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now found. But where is your sister? Where is Mary?
Mary? She is gone, Mother.
I know she's gone. The question is, when will she return as you have? I miss my grandson so much. It's been days since their last visit.
Why do you say Mary is visiting you, Mother? You know that's impossible.
Why should it be? Are you not standing in front of me right now? Why should it be any different with your sister?
But Mary really is dead, Mother.
Yes. And are you not dead too? Isn't your father dead? And my grandson, and my son-in-law, you're all gone. But you all still visit me from time to time.
But I'm not dead, Mother. I'm really here, talking to you, trying not to cry.
Oh, it breaks my heart to have to tell you this. But of course you're dead, my darling boy. Just look at you, as pale as my Mary.
Do you need anything, Mother? Can I help you?
I just want you to stay with me, Jonathan. Your room is ready. I asked Avery to make your bed.
I'll stay as long as I can, I promise. Do you need anything else?
Just one thing. Stop staring at me like that. As much as I love you, it breaks my heart to look at those empty and dead eyes.
Are you working on a new painting?
Not recently. I have trouble focusing on my subject and my mind quickly drifts. It's the same thing when I try to write poetry.
I recently met a talented painter with an excellent technique. I wish you two could meet. I'm sure you'd like her.
I'd be glad to meet her. What is her name? Is she famous? Is she dead too?
She's not famous, and her name is of no importance. And yes, she is also dead.
The important thing is, I hope you two get along. If she ever fancies meeting your mother, I'd be glad to welcome her into my home.
Have you returned to Whitechapel Cemetery since Mary's funeral?
I never want to go back to that awful place. Wait. I think I went back once. And you were there too. And Mary? No, that can't be true.
It was just a bad dream, Mother.
A nightmare, yes. Mary was so angry. I walked back home alone. If that kind policeman had not called Avery from the station, I don't know what would have happened.
Mother, do you know what's been going on in this area?
Not really. I don't go out much due to the epidemic, and when I do, I tend to get lost.
What do you mean you get lost? I hope you don't go outside alone.
Of course not. When I go out, your father always comes with me, but he leaves me there sometimes, and I have trouble finding the way back.
Goodbye, Mother. Try to rest now.
Goodbye, son. Please come back soon. Your father and I have spoken about your fiancé, Mary. We believe he'll be an honorable husband for you. We'll set a date for the marriage then. That way, I'm sure one of my children will give me grandchildren. I understand your thirst for knowledge, Jonathan, and your father and I are proud of it. But you are not that young anymore, my son. When will I meet your soulmate? You can ascribe my romantic tendencies to my French origins if you want, Aubrey. But I'll never cease to believe in a match made in heaven, my beloved.
I really wish you could meet her, Mother. You would love her.
Yes, Jonathan. Spending next summer in France. Absolutely. Why not?
I remember Sunday walks in the park. Good evening, Gabriel.
Mr. Jonathan? I can't believe my own eyes. Oh, it's a miracle. We all thought you were... Oh, sir, your poor sister. What a tragedy.
I know, Avery. I know about my sister's murder.
Miss Reid expected you to return to assist with the funeral, right up until the last minute. Where have you been, Mr. Jonathan? We needed you here.
I'm sorry I could not be here for Mary's funeral.
Your mother was strong, sir, but your support would have been appreciated. Apart from the priest and I, no one else attended your sister's funeral.
To be present at the funeral with you both was my dearest wish, Avery. But I am sorry, I simply could not attend.
I would not dare to question your absence, Mr. Jonathan. All I can say is that we missed you a great deal during these difficult days.
What is the situation in this part of town?
For a time, the West End seemed spared by the epidemic. But the situation is getting much worse.
Have you no relatives anywhere? I'll understand if you want to take a few days to see family.
Your father managed to guarantee my earnings as long as I take care of this house, sir. My sisters are dead, and I've never met my nephews. I'll stay, sir.
How is my mother?
Not well, I'm afraid, sir. Miss Reid is very fragile since the police brought her back home.
The police? What happened?
Miss Reid was found walking in the streets. She kept saying she had spoken with her son and daughter. She's resting now.
Has she received appropriate medical care?
I'm taking care of Miss Reid myself. Hospitals are so overwhelmed by the epidemic that they can only accept patients infected by influenza.
Perhaps we could arrange a short trip. Somewhere sunny, like France. She has always been very fond of France. I think leaving London could do her good.
I'm afraid Miss Reid is too frail for the moment. Recently, she started going out at night without remembering it. I have to watch her carefully.
I found an old letter written by my father and addressed to me. Do you know anything about it, Avery?
Your father wanted me to give you this letter for your 35th birthday, but you left for the war, and the letter remained in his office until tonight.
I realize now you knew my father better than I did. Do you know why he left, Avery? Did he ever speak to you about his departure?
No, sir. Mr. Reid was not exactly forthcoming. Perhaps this letter will give you the information you require.
Tell me the truth, Avery. Do you feel forced to stay here? Would you leave this house without the arrangement made by my father?
No, sir. I have nowhere else to go. And I promised your father I'd take care of his family as long as I live.
This house is dead, Avery. There is a curse on this family. You really should consider leaving.
If only you could have been here sooner or more often. Maybe this house would not be that empty. But you're here now, sir, so my task is not over.
You have served this family extremely well, Avery. Your support during these terrible times is much appreciated.
Then I will stay. All I ask is that you take care of my own funeral if I die before the end of the epidemic. No mass grave, please, sir.
Do you really think I don't take enough care of my mother, Avery?
Yes, I do, Mr. Jonathan.
You clearly have something more to say. Speak your mind, Avery.
I know you work hard to help the sick, but what will you do once the epidemic is over?
My home is here, and I have nowhere else to go. But this house will need some improvements if I move here. Some radical changes.
That's good news. Whatever changes you have in mind, I'm sure we will find an arrangement that suits your mother also.
Do you know my mother speaks to the dead members of this family?
Yes. I sometimes hear her speaking to you, Miss Mary, and her baby. Sometimes your father, too.
So she thinks I'm also dead. And what about you?
I believe she only sees her relatives as the dead she speaks to, Mr. Jonathan. It breaks my heart to see Miss Reid like that.
She may get better. It's only a hypothesis, but I know my mother is strong. Whatever illusions have clouded her mind, they will fade in time.
Yes. With time, Miss Reid will recover from this cursed year. I know that your return can only be beneficial to that process.
I'm currently investigating sources of the epidemic in this part of town. Do you know anything useful?
Not really, except all the MacPherson's servants resigned a few days ago. They feared becoming infected, they said.
The MacPhersons? Where do they live?
I think it's a rich house near the railway bridge in the southern part of the district.
Goodbye, Avery. Please watch over my mother until I return.
Of course, Mr. Jonathan, but please return as soon as possible.
There has been a fight here. I can see a blood trail. Left by one of the antagonists, perhaps? What a mess. Something terrible happened here. But what?
You see that? Look lively! Talk to us! He's dead!
A restaurant where the guests are blindfolded before being seated. Intriguing.
Die, vermin! Christ, he's dead!
More braille. I should bring this to Mason Swanborough. This is despicable. It's locked, all right.
I will crush you! Foolish echo! Your blood is now... Give me your blood! No one can hide from Ascalon! I will crush!
Louise's father was determined to find and save her. I cannot enter. It's locked, all right. have this thirst for blood.
Your prey is mine now!
Let me go, you bastard! Keep me locked in here!
Stupid newborn!
Disgusting arsehole! I will not, I'll never, all right! Let me go, you bastard!
Miss Teasdale, are you all right?
How do you know my name? Who are you?
My name is Dr. Reid. I managed to track you down thanks to your father.
So my father really was looking after me. This man, this vampire told me my father was dead. Is it true?
I'm afraid so, miss. I'm so sorry for your loss. But you are free to go, as your abductor is no more.
I suppose my jailer also killed my father, didn't he?
Thankfully, he did not search your father's corpse, where I found his notes describing where he might find you. You should read them.
I must find my father's body. He deserves a proper burial.
Goodbye, Miss Teasdale, and be careful. Until we meet again. You should return to a safer place, Miss Teasdale. What's more, I'm not sure you should see your father in his condition. He was savagely disfigured.
Thank you for your sympathy, Doctor. But I recently learnt to stare horror in the face.
Goodbye, Miss Teasdale, and be careful. Until we meet again.
Reid. I am glad.
Good evening, Miss Price. I'm Dr. Reid. Do you remember me?
Dr. Reid? Yes, of course. You are the doctor who healed me and my mum. Good evening, Dr. Reid.
Good to see you too, Carol. Are you all right?
Oh, yes. I did not hurt myself recently. I know how to take care of myself now. I'm almost a grown-up.
Why are you awake at night, Carol?
I am helping my mother in her shop. It's not easy, but I'm a grown-up now.
I'm sure your mother is grateful for your help.
I do the best I can. But I'm so clumsy sometimes. I drop things. I injure myself. It's a good thing my mother has the patience of an angel.
Why is work not easy? Is something or someone bothering you?
Oh no, most people are gentle with me. But I'm so nervous sometimes. I pay no attention and hurt myself. Good thing my mum learned first aid.
What can you tell me of the people living nearby?
I don't speak to many people, except our customers. It's not easy to make friends. And with the epidemic, it's even more difficult.
What can you tell me about the epidemic?
Some of our regular customers have left London. Some others only send their housemaids now. Everybody fears the contagion. I've even seen men with weapons.
Have you no friends at all?
No. Mr. Nithercote used to pass by and was always nice to me.
Does he not come by anymore?
No. Mum said he was weird. Always reciting poetry about a girl he'd met in Whitechapel. I wonder who this camellia may be.
Do you need my medical attention?
No, I'm all right, Mr. Reid. Well, I think I am.
Do you enjoy working with your mother?
Oh, yes, Doctor. My mother raised me alone after my father died. We've always lived together, and she has always watched over me.
Do you remember your father?
No, I was just a baby then. My mother always told me how strong and good he was.
Do you ever think about getting married now you're a woman?
Oh no, Dr. Reid. Mum always says I'm still a child who has no idea how tough life can be. No husband would like a clumsy girl like me.
Goodbye, Carol.
Good morning. Good evening, sir.
I hope you can stay a little longer this time.
Good evening, Miss Price. How are you tonight?
Dr. Reid, I didn't know you had returned from the war. I had a new doctor when you left, but he's not as kind as you.
Always glad to see a former patient in good condition. It's been a long time.
Too long indeed. And as a token of my appreciation, I'll grant you the best price if you fancy buying anything from my humble shop.
What can you tell me about yourself, Miss Price?
I'm still managing my shop. The only difference is, since the quarantine, we're open at night. You, on the contrary, seem to have changed a lot.
Really? Have I changed that much? It must have been the war and the night shifts since my return.
Don't get me wrong, Dr. Reid, you're still handsome. Just maybe a little bit wiser, more serious. It suits you well.
Tell me more about yourself. No new fiancé? I remember you were hoping to get remarried. I'm sure you must have a few suitors.
Who would marry an old bat like myself with a grown daughter and a little business? As you know, I only fancy handsome men like yourself.
Have you noticed anything in particular in this part of town recently?
Other than you coming back to cheer me up? Nothing at all, Dr. Reid.
Carol's gratitude is exemplary. She seems determined never to leave you.
I'm taking care of my daughter as well as I can. It's not always easy, but she's the best gift life gave me.
But she'll probably leave you someday to live her own life. Will that be difficult for you?
Why would she leave? Children sometimes stay with their parents until the end, for they know no one else will love them as much.
Does your daughter still worry you, Miss Price? I remember you were often concerned about her health when she was younger.
Have you not seen Carol since you returned? She's almost a young woman now, but she'll always remain my sweet little baby.
So you're less afraid?
Some things never change. Carol is still too clumsy for her own good. Sometimes her innocence puts her in real danger.
Why would her innocence put her in danger?
She does not realize how cruel life can be. Maybe I was a bad mother to protect her too much. My poor dear Carol.
You have every reason to be cautious, Miss Price. Especially in these difficult times.
Maybe you could talk with her, Dr. Reid. It would be nice to have a man here more often. We would both feel safer.
Goodbye for now, Miss Price.
Dr. Reid, I am glad to see you again.
Good evening, sir. May I ask you what you're doing here at this late hour?
I'm conducting an investigation about the epidemic in this part of town.
And who are you, sir?
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reid from the Pembroke Hospital. May I ask who you are and why all the questions?
I'm Detective Inspector Charles Albright from Scotland Yard. And I don't find your answers convincing. What is a Pembroke doctor doing in the West End at this time of night?
I work for the Ascalon Club. Here is my permit to go freely about the city.
The Ascalon Club? You should have said so, sir. I must warn you, these streets are dangerous, and you'd better be careful.
Why are you investigating at night?
Criminals rarely act in daylight, you know. But since you are also a night worker, have you noticed anything strange which requires police attention?
I'd like to report a name, Inspector. Jeffrey McCullum. I'm afraid he's some sort of vigilante, trying to recruit an army of angry citizens.
Then I'll write the name down and transmit this intelligence to the appropriate office. Thank you, sir.
What can you tell me about this district?
I'm the one asking questions, especially when there's a killer on the loose.
What killer?
I'm not going to discuss that with the civilians, sir.
Haven't I told you about the investigation I'm conducting? Perhaps I could help you.
All right, without giving you too much information, I'll tell you this. I'm convinced there is a homicidal maniac on the loose, using the epidemic to disguise his kills.
And what about the epidemic?
We both know the situation is critical, don't we, Doctor? Colleagues of mine die almost every day.
What are you really doing here?
I told you. I'm a detective inspector from Scotland Yard, investigating suspicious cases in the area.
Do you work alone?
Yes, the situation is difficult for the police. Many of us are sick, and since the summer strike, most men apply a work to rule on their patrols.
What about the situation in the East End? Why are there no police there to protect the civilians?
I know, it's a shame, but we just don't have enough men to cover the entire city.
Tell me all you know about that homicidal maniac you're looking for.
I'm not even sure there is only one. The wounds are always the same, but the modus operandi varies. Sometimes violent and brutal, sometimes precise and swift.
How could different killers inflict the same wounds?
That's my main problem. If my theory is correct, maybe we're facing a group of individuals sharing the same violent tendencies. Perhaps a sadist cult.
What are you investigating, exactly?
I have a missing woman, possibly abducted a few nights ago. Louise Teasdale. It seems you already found my other missing person, Mr. Tadao Kimura.
Tell me about Louise Teasdale.
She's a waitress. Her father reported her missing. We don't have enough men to search for her, sadly.
Do you have any idea where she could be?
No. But I feel she's been abducted. She went to a pub a few nights ago and vanished. I thought about the sewers, but I'm not equipped for such an investigation.
Goodbye, Detective Inspector Albright.
Goodbye, Dr. Jonathan Reid. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.